Morung Express since then, since last year, has hosted a couple of other events, which is why we have taken a break from our lecture. But it is a very exciting one. We bring together the intellectual strengths and expertise of Putoli Shikuchingmak and Morung. They will attempt to discuss how we could imagine the year ahead and design our move forward towards positive change. Let me quickly introduce our speakers for the day. Putoli Shikuchingmak is the Managing Director of Eleutheros Christian Society since 1992. They are based in Transam. She holds degrees in various legal streams, including human rights law and environmental law, apart from being a Master of Divinity in Theology. In 2003, she won the Governor of Nagaland's Gold Medal for Distinguished Service in Health and Development. Morung is an aspiring poet with a published book of poems and has a background working in environmental rights. He is also a second-time legislator from Bandari constituency under Mokha district and is presently the advisor to the government of Nagaland for IT, science and technology, and new and renewable energy. Before we start today's lecture, I just want to make the format clear. Till now, we have generally been having somebody gives an introduction, they speak. What we are doing today is we are going to have a discussion, and in the middle of the discussion, if you have some questions, you can raise your hand, clarify some points. It's a very public discussion in that sense. So there will be no public discussion at the end. Feel free to ask questions in between whenever you have doubts and questions, but be cordial. Please raise your hand. I'll be the moderator for the day. I'll see what are the questions we can take or we cannot take. Introduce yourself. No personal attacks, no party political questions. Please avoid those things here. We are here to discuss the real difficult issues, not the party political issues. So I think with that, if both of you are ready, we can be ready. So I just wanted to because we're talking about imagining 2019. What was in our mind when we framed this concept of imagining 2019 was just observing 2018 and seeing how things were constantly breaking out, and there was a constant culture of protest, and it was not clear how to approach issues. What were the solutions? Most of the solutions never came. We were wondering if it is because there is a general breakdown of value systems. Is that why we are not being able to approach issues here in the best possible manner? And in that sense, how are policies being made in Nagaland? How are we approaching development from grassroots all the way to the top? So if you can give us a few frameworks to think about these things, and then we'll carry on the discussion from there. Putali.
Thank you, Aditi, for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me. I thank the Morung Express for giving me this opportunity to be part of this distinguished panel. I think the focus for the Nagas would be, I think we are a very ill-informed society, I feel sometimes. When the issues become hot, we act on our head many times, and then we try to just take everything out. But then I think what we have to be very careful as a community is we have to, retrospectively look inside, understand the issue, and then deliberate it. Most of the time we deliberate issues just because someone has said something on the Facebook or there's something on the newspaper, and we don't even think about the issue. We don't even know what the issue is actually about, and then we act on it. So I think we really need to take time, especially in 2019. We have to refocus, understand a lot of issues, even in terms of development. Look at it as a sustainable development. I have this principle 3 of the Rio Declaration, which says there is a right to development, but the emphasis is that it should be fulfilled as to meet equitably the developmental and the environmental needs of the present and future generation. So when we talk about development in Nagaland, we are talking about the immediate. We are not even looking at the future. Sometimes everything that the Nagas, we as people do is immediate. We don't take time to think, for the future. Even our responses are so immediate without studying. So I think just to begin with, I will stop there and maybe Mono can add on to that.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, Hailey. It's a privilege to be part of the Morung Lectures 2019. I would start by saying that there was, since 1963, a policy disconnect in the state in terms of how development priorities were decided, how the entire Human Development Index was studied, and then whether or not planners actually looked at our statistics, our reality to develop policies to for the progress of the state. So just to give you one example, there is a lot of disparity in a lot of regions, in a lot of districts in the state. If you look at, if you review the statistics in the state, you will find that even, for instance, take health for one. You would look at how many hospitals are there, how many community health centers are there, how many primary health centers are there, how many sub-centers, dispensaries are there. Usually, the ministry gives proper guidelines in terms of the criteria for awarding a primary health center or a sub-center. If sometimes it's population, second, sometimes and mostly in Nagaland, it also includes geographical isolation. So we have seen in 2000, as early as 2000, as late as 2016, we have seen that there has been a total mismanagement of how primaries and health centers and sub-centers have been distributed. Mismanagement because they have not taken in, factored in the population and the geographical isolation factor. Because, for instance, in a district where you have a population of 150,000, you would have around, and this is how policies have been decided in the past. You will have around, 26, at least one district has 26 to 28 primary health centers. Their population is less than a district which has 250,000 population. It has lesser primary health centers. So I am, as a policymaker, amused and confused and perplexed as to how this decision was taken. Although, look into it, we realize that policy decisions have been taken in the past, and I would not blame any tribe or anybody for that matter. Leadership has been very prominent in determining how decisions of this nature have been taken. So today, in today's context, suppose, since we have inherited that system, suppose we talk about change, then we have to talk about how policies should be made. So I'm not problematizing the entire context in which we are discussing, but I'm looking at just one aspect of how policies and decisions have been taken, policies have been framed in the past, how issues like health and education have been prioritized in the past. Therefore, when the Nagaland government in the last term carried out the process of rationalization of schools and teachers, it was just to correct the wrongs of the past. So a lot of energy, time and wasted is wasted in redressing the wrong policies that have been taken in the past. And this is just one example. So in the future, if I imagine 2019, I expect, and since we are participating in the government as well, we want to bring about policies which factors in the realistic assessment at the grassroots. And for that, we have also put in a place where we ensure that there is communication between the community and the government when such decisions are taken. Because a lot of social ills that we see today are as a basis of, or as a result of, the bad decisions that we have taken in the past. And this will also address the ill, the negative side of tribalism. Because we will not take a tribal-based policy decision when it comes to health and education. and even other service delivery systems in the state to begin with.
Is that what you mean by social ills when you say social?
So, for instance, look at the crime rates. You know, a lot of it is, and this is a lot of studies being done on that. You know, a lot of the crime rate in all the districts vary. But in urban centers like Kohima and Dimapur, where most of the development are focused. If you look at the statistics, most of the development have been focused in these two districts because of the urbanization and the massive migration from the rural sectors. Although population is higher, 70% of population in Nagaland are in the rural sector, the 30% gets more financial, let us say, priority than the other 70%. And this is true of the districts like in the eastern side, Morung, and other. Yeah.
For that, can you just give us a little, like, whatever he spoke about, like, you know, the approach has been redressal, that there is a, you talked about needs as well. So, to focus on the needs of future generations, to simply redress, is it enough? And if you can, you know, by way of examples, explain to us what is happening in the grassroots, really, this is the kind of policies being implemented.
I think what I would like to draw from what Morung said is also, you know, communities can impact policies. And I find that as a very important component, because if the communities are aware, you know, and we start addressing those needs and bring it to the people who are in position, who can actually make things happen on the grassroots. Why I'm saying this is, as an organization, we have been working in health for a very long time, since 1992. There were days when we didn't have doctors at all in the hospital. We had a 100-bedded hospital with no doctor for more than 10-15 years. Only the nurses used to man the hospital. We made sure that we spoke to the government, but the government was not able to even post, I mean, they were all posted to Twengsang. We had 11 doctors, 15 doctors with medical specialization, and they refused to come. And in the midst of HIV epidemic, where we had the community at 86% when we started like, you know, working day and night. We went to the hospitals ourselves. We could not impact policy for a very long time. We found it very difficult to impact policies. It was very difficult. It was like you know, talking to I don't know what. I wouldn't even use that word. Worse than a water on the duck's back. You know, nothing was happening. So the community took the responsibility of bringing health. Community took the responsibility of providing health services. So I think what I would like to say is that it can happen. Now we work in 100 villages. We have a PPP, partnership with the government of Nagaland. We call it public-private partnership. And our PHC is just 10-bedded hospital, but we can accommodate up to 100 patients. And we have outreach in 100 villages, and we have started strengthening all the PHCs along with the government of Nagaland. So it is possible to impact policies from the grassroots. No, things can happen from the top, but if the communities become responsible, if the community starts taking the initiative, things can change. And I think Twengsang and Morung, we're slowly starting to see the change. Because Twengsang has the highest population. Twengsang and Morung. Of course, it got split into Longleng and Kifri, but then we had the highest number of people who were diseased, who were sick. And so, you know, it is possible. So I think if the government and the community work hand in hand, we can impact each other and make things happen.
Yeah, sure.
I just want to add that we've had wonderful initiatives by the state government, like the communitization, which envision that government and community will work together to ensure that basic service delivery is given to the intended population. Now, we need to review the impact of the communitization program, because today, in my own experience as a two-time legislator, I've been visiting my constituency frequently, and And I found out that in spite of empowering the village in terms of controlling how the schools are run at the primary school level, how the power sector is to be, how we should cooperate with the power department and water and health as well. Just take one example, the village education committee. It is one classic solution for the government and the community to work together in ensuring that education is provided, ensuring that teachers attend schools. Because they've been given the power of issuing a no objection certificate. If the teacher does not attend school, then the BEC has the power to withhold their salary. So the bane of proxy teachers in Nagaland is happening because our community, which has been empowered, is not exercising their power. So we have so many proxy teachers. I have found out that there are teachers who are earning 40,000 salary, paying 5,000 salary to the proxy teachers. They are staying in Kohima, Dimapur, or even Delhi, and taking on additional job, which becomes a primary job, whereas the government is paying their salary. So the sin of this is being borne by all of us. It's not just the government or the bureaucracy. It's when the collective itself is failing ourselves. That's when policies like this don't work. So we need to review whether that policy will work. If it does not work, what kind of policy we will bring in. And usually for the political class, we may take action. Usually now the department is taking action. However, the impact and the backlash is politically articulated, and therefore sometimes there is a tendency to be lenient. Whereas I feel that if the society feels that our children in the rural sector deserve quality education because we are paying quality salary, then I think we need to work together. We need to come out and say that this should stop.
Right. So on that note, I mean, both of you have raised excellent points. One is the model of PPP that you all have been trying out. I don't know if everyone can hear me. Can you confirm? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Oh, it was really close. Pardon my flu. Communitization was something we spoke about a couple of years back. We had Reverend Chingma coming and actually giving us the realistic picture of how good it is and what are the problems, and he said the same thing, that it's much needs review. One would think that communitization, the policy itself, was designed keeping in mind the context here. One of the few policies made keeping in mind the context. And here you're saying the communities are not exercising their power as they should, despite one would imagine that, the policy, at least that was created keeping in mind. Why is that? Why is the community, despite having a powerful policy enacted on their behalf for them, which completely gives them all autonomy, why is the community, apart from your model is like, let's take it as like the best successful model, ECS, but why not elsewhere? Are there accountability mechanisms missing? Is there some problem with democracy? What is happening?
I think Morung can add on later on, but I don't know, the Naga community, we are actually a very exclusive communities. Nobody can teach us. Nobody can correct us, and every village is very exclusive in that sense. So we don't like to eat from each other's mouth, So I think most of the time, what the issue here is whether we talk about communitization of health, whether we talk about communitization of education, we are talking about stakeholders within the community who have power, who have the authority, and many times nobody can challenge the power and authority that they have. Now the common man, the common masses are not able to challenge that authority. So if they know that the VEC is there, but they cannot challenge the VEC, because the teacher will come, give 5 kgs of pork and a little bit of money, and the VEC will just keep quiet. The village council, the head of the village council will just keep quiet if Baba, Like, no, we use all these patronizing words, and then we come and say, like, I'm so sorry, this, that, what, we have a lot of excuses. We come to the villages and then we can just buy them off. And what is happening in our society is very sad. If you look at the villages, especially the schools, there is just one teacher, two teacher men in the whole middle school. Up till middle school, up till class 8. Up till class 4, you will just find one teacher. Or the teachers who are in the villages, as Morung has said, the teachers would rather be in Kohima and in Dimapur. They are also attached to ministers and MLAs also. They used to be attached. Even the medical department, the doctors are attached. I mean, of course, even, our bureaucrats, I'm not saying that, but then we use the political things for our own self, our own gain. And I also come from a political family, and it's very easy, and there's something wrong with our society. If our cousins or if our aunties or uncles are MLAs or ministers, we will forget everything and we just want to reach on to them. We trouble them. It's not that, I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying what is happening in the villages.
Why is it happening?
Yeah, this is happening because we are so dependent on easy money. Okay, we have become very irresponsible. I feel this is one factor that the Nagas have to really take control. In the villages also, there's so much of development money which comes in. We've become irresponsible. And so, these are the things I think at the grassroots we need to correct ourselves. We need to correct ourselves and say, whether it's education or health, we take the responsibility. And then we do not depend on the bureaucrats, we do not depend on the politicians for our sustenance every day. And so I think we are not able to make decisions at the village level because of a lot of things also. And I think money has been one of the major factors, there's a power control. And people who control money are the ones who make decisions. And so sometimes I think things are not happening on the ground.
So, money being the center of power from top to grassroots, both levels, I'm aware you have worked on both these levels. Why is that defining the value system in knowledge?
I think we are oversimplifying a universal phenomenon. It's not limited to Nagaland, and Nagaland cannot be looked at in isolation. I would give one example. For instance, the government of Nagaland has banned attachment of teachers to politicians or anybody. So that order is out and it's in place. For teacher-student ratio, now rationalization process has been done. A lot of teachers have been affected because now they have to go to another place of posting because some primary schools have been done away with, they've been merged with a middle school or a government high school. This is to address the fact that we are maybe perhaps overstaffing certain schools where students are less, like in Dimapur and Kohima and other urban centers. And we're depriving certain schools of teachers, even though they have the number of students. And therefore, this issue has been addressed. And I think in a few years' time, this will be sufficiently rooted out. Coming back to the fundamental question of money and how our society, looks at all this, I would say that government policies are intended to address the problems of the people. Now, when the government of Nagaland started the rubber plantation, in Woka district alone, today, the annual revenue generated out of the sale of rubber is 10 crores per annum. So, in terms of personal enrichment of the farmers, whoever takes up this process, this farming, they, of course, because of the effort they put in and usually earn everything. Now, similar practices, because we have been, in the past, if you look at the agriculture and agri-allied sectors policy, it has had many contradictions within itself. Sometimes they will go for monoculture, sometimes they will support June cultivation, sometimes by, because the rate of fallow land, increases and decreases depending on the districts where Agri and Allied Department comes with their policies. So unless there is a synchronization of such policy, we would not be able to ensure that a farmer earns money from what he or she does. So, for instance, ECS is selling honey, and they are packaging it in bottles, usually round bottles. And Nagaland is land of prohibition. So I wonder where they get the round bottles. But if we do the packaging well, the honey that they sell, would be selling in the European market like in Meghalaya. They're doing that. So a lot of things are done without looking at the ethics of it. Maybe when we do something for profit, even if it's for the farmers, we think that AECS as the facilitator should be able to bring that market. Whereas we usually think that a farmer should both be the farmer and the middleman and also the shopkeeper and the retailer. We have to change that process. So in that, towards that end, a lot of thinking is going in right now because there's no one stop solution to that. Therefore, communication, road transport, very important. In terms of 2019, I look forward to having more the involvement of technology in delivery governance. And that is something that we are prioritizing at the moment. In fact, if you look at the government, when you go to the secretariat, I go to the secretariat for my office work, and sometimes we call our government employees. Till February, some of our government officers are having, government servants are still thinking that Christmas holiday is not over. So attendance is very important. So when you have no personal commitment to the job you are doing, in fact, in spite of the fact that you are getting a salary at the end of the month, and you are dutifully paying your 10% time to the church you attend, we are not attending to the work that we are supposed to do. So to begin with, on a personal note, from if each and every individual is doing their part, then there will be a collective change in that process. But that is, simplistically putting the whole situation. Coming back to, again, the policy. If I, get back to what you were saying, right from education, health sector, which is of primary importance, to the road sector and other modes of development. If we have the community government alignment, where it is required, communitization has been a very brilliant initiative. We got the UN, I think UNESCO award for communitization. I remember our chief secretary going to accept the UN award and R.S. Pandey was the chief secretary. Now, definitely every great idea must be reviewed from time to time. And that review has not been done. So although it has been a brilliant idea, it has been a brilliant concept, people's participation has been found wanting. So now, what is the next step? The next step is to understand where it has failed, how, from the comment you made, it was designed to address the problem and the need of the people based on the feedback the government got at that point of time. So now that design must change because times have changed. So I feel that communitization should review where it has worked, where it has not, and then work on that. Then I think that is one area where our core strength will be exposed and executed.
Just coming back to development, marketing is an issue, and we work with farmers on livelihood for a very long time. And we have been working with farmers at the grassroots, at the village. About 2 years ago, we started this e-trading because the government of Nagaland was not responding at all to all our, appeal, to all our requests. Farmers were producing so much ginger. And we produced 7,000, just few villages itself, we produced 7,000 tons of ginger. And we had to go on commercial side, we had to literally go to Calcutta, to Delhi to sell our ginger. Now if the government of Nagaland can think farmers have produced so much honey. What is the honey mission doing? They should come to these villages and buy the honey. We ECS, we give them honey, we give them projects, we again buy, for us to sell, it's not our job. But because the farmers are having bulk of honey which they can't do anything about it, we say you just package it and we'll sell it through the churches. It's very pathetic. You talk about development, you can't do much because the marketing linkages are so poor in Nagaland. So I think one initiative, what I would request the government of Nagaland to do is take this very seriously. Because the farmers are producing, as you rightly say, through rubber, through, even, what do we call that? We have this...
ginger.
No ginger. Morung, we have a lot of ilachi. The cardamom, lots of cardamom farmers are there. Now, you know what is happening now? The middlemen within the Naga society have become very smart. When they were buying cardamom for 1,000, we have reduced it to 400. Because we want to take 600, the middlemen within our own, our own communities. So what we are trying as an organization, and we often try our best, is we want to let the farmers benefit totally from all the produce without the middleman. And that the government, I think it's very important for the government to take the responsibility of linking markets to villages. And livelihood is one area that a lot of farmers in Nagaland, even the gas honey, when I go up and I see all these pineapples, it breaks my heart because we don't even have a processing unit which is functioning in Nagaland. I am a lead fellow, leadership in environment and development, and being a lead fellow, I kept quiet because I think it was in 2004 that we sat with the government of Nagaland and drafted an agriculture policy. And a friend of mine actually said, Putuli, in Nagaland you had 2,000 crores of money which came in from the government of India. And when we look at your state, it's in a pathetic condition. So I think what the journey that we all need to take is, I think the government also should come forward. I know we have our representative here, representing all of us, and I think this is one area that we can work and maybe have a stronger ties, especially in terms of marketing and linkages for especially farmers who are in the rural communities. Yeah.
I find this discussion really interesting, and I have a lot of questions, particularly to do with how the relationship between the government and the people or other organizations. We are looking at it as a complete transaction, a very market-like transaction. And the new market economy is something I know all of us are concerned about. And I really eventually want to figure out through this conversation that should numbers only be responding to material needs, and will that resolve? Will the new market economy looking at everything as a transaction? I was telling you all this famous quote before that a famous leader has constantly been saying, Nagaland is rich, Nagas are poor. What does that mean? Should we just take away all the timber? Should we take away whatever resources are there and transact it in the market? Is that enough? Is materialism enough to push us through? But before we get to that, think about it a little bit, because that's still the larger one. Because we are talking too much, and I feel like we should also just like people should have ownership of the state and policies, I feel like people should have ownership of this discussion. And are there any questions you all have? We've been discussing this for a little while. Pavan, to ask, is there somebody who can help me with the mic? And
yeah, it's okay. I am quite listening. Mr. Kikon and
take this mic.
Beautifully, I was a little late. See, Alvin Toffler said, I was just imagining of 2019 and forward.
Just hold it closer.
Thanks. Alvin Toffler said, the modern illiteracy is not one who is not able to read and write, but a person who is not able to learn, unlearn and relearn. In this context, I would like to say, we are talking about communitization, partnership, belongingness, lot of things you spoke. Where we have failed, these policies are for whom actually? And how these policies are being made and how it is promulgated. Did the ownership come from the bottom up level, or it is just introduced by top to the bottom level. So that gap need to be assessed. And the second thing, education and health, very, very important. The church, today also we had a meeting, the church, though the government might have failed, but the church should not fail. Most interior places that we can reach to educate our children, no way they are second-class citizens, the rural setting children. So the church has taken a decision to go and teach them, let them open up their eyes and let them learn. Just to be in that context, government might have failed. Therefore, communitization came, entrusted to the villages. I am not asking they failed. Might have failed, or I don't know why it has come. Communitization was well acknowledged and we had to study too. But when the government failed, communitization came. Communication, the villages failed, now what is next? Are you getting my point? Now government failed, village council failed, now what is next? Who will take the responsibility? What I prefer, a partnership. As Ma'am Puthuli rightly said, in the health department, you are taking a lead. A partnership with the people and commitment from the community. More than the communitization, something new has been evolved because community has become chalta hai. Government also need to be take stringent measures to implement the teachers who are not moving out from the village, but they are getting to the village. For example, Laputi, just with that I conclude. Laputi school, we did our rural camp there, 10 days we stayed and studied. Actually 27 teachers and 30 to 34 students. And how are we going to teach? And these teachers are highly qualified and the students who are coming there are below average. The teacher will be teaching Greek to the students there. Dichotomy in our village, dichotomy in our system. Now what is next? How can we fill this dichotomy through partnership? Just that is a question. Thank you.
It's not an answer to Anto's question, but it's just a reflection on the framework in which he asked. In the sense that it's in any democracy, elections come after every 5 years. And when I said initially that we have inherited this system, my generation demands a lot of things. My generation demands a lot of change in every sector. And we are in it because we are in this profession because we also want to be part of that change. We don't want to stay at home and grit. We don't want to stay at home and complain. We want to be there where action is. Therefore, when we review the past, of which we were never involved, not part of, today when we want to review that, the question to situate the framework into the proper context, the question that I would like to ask is how, when you say that, whether it was framed by the bureaucrat or the minister or the community. The thing is, in any democratic country, there are democratic institutions. These institutions, whether it is the executive, the legislative or the judiciary, they have their own role. Certain policies are made by one of those institutions. For instance, a communitization policy cannot be made by the village council for the whole of Nagaland. So, when you make such a policy, it is to address common problems of the citizens. Therefore, when I say that in the past they have envisaged a good program, UN has recognized that program, and on critical sectors like health, power, water, and education. So these are critical sectors. But where has it failed? Is it because the government has failed? The people has failed? Are we to put blame on one or the other? Or are we to review, given our collective experience, where it will work, where it has worked, and how it will be better? So for me, from a solutions perspective, I would want to strive to address those issues from making policies work if it is actually working.
So it just connected. I will get it, but it just connected to that. But who reviews it? Who will review? Who will do a review like this? Because it just, if at all it is paid, let's not use the word paid in the classified place. And I'm not saying that we should communicate now. Let's talk about other general policies, or whether it's my team policy, however, whatever policies are there. Who is the reviewer and who is the maker of these policies? Suppose I am in Dumpling Mostly colony, right? There are certain laws that also apply to us. Are we like really there to review policies, whether they are affecting us or not, whether it's useful or not, whether the village education council is useful to me or not? Am I able to, suppose I live in a particular X village, am I able to, as a part of the community, as a person whose generations have lived in this particular village, who have drawn from certain value systems and stuff, and then there is somebody saying, this policy really works for you, but this person is saying it's not, we are rejecting it, quite obviously we are rejecting it. What I'm wondering is like, how do we have ownership? How does a person in the village, in X village, have ownership over it to be able to implement it? Who is to review it? Who is to make it?
From what I understand, your question is in two parts. One is a very simple question, which is who will review? The government will review it. How do we review it is the more critical question. The more critical question is involving various agencies. Like we have now regularly we publish the UN Development Report of the state. So where we measure the economic, social development of the state from the various indicators that are there, and especially based on the Human Development Index. Now that the UN is also now already partnering with government of Nagaland to look at whether we have achieved certain goals under the Millennium Development Goals in the state. So the review will be done by the state. It will be in partnership with the people who have implemented the community health center at the villages. This is the second part of your question. Because if we don't study the collective experience of various villages who have implemented the community health, community program, we will not be able to review it. So it's just collecting data, assessing their experience. That is the second part. Government will review. Other part I would like to add is that it's not necessarily about one village implementing it properly or one village not implementing. Why I say this is because, for instance, when I said the community is very important in assessing all this, I'll give you one slight example. Today, every village has a committee which looks after the power supply and all that, electrification and all that. So when it comes to paying bills, this committee is entrusted with paying the bills of the community for the power that they are receiving, if at all they receive. We have out of 1,400 plus villages in Nagaland, 1,200 villages till 2016 have been electrified. The rest are in the process. Today is 2019, I don't have the statistics of today. But till 2016, as per the statistics available, it's like that. Now, many village committees which look into the power are not paying the bill from the individual households who are enjoying power supply. And because of which, power transmission and all these issues have problem. Now, the NREGS money, which is given to every village on the basis of their job card. If you have certain number of job cards, you are given certain number of money. They use this money, part of this money, to pay the electricity bill of the village. So tell me, where pilferage has taken place, whether it is properly implemented or not, because at the end of the day, people say that our purpose has been served, but whether due process was followed. So even if we have put in place a policy like communitization, where institutions have been set up, and this is on a state level, the due process has not been followed. So review is necessary to address where we have failed. And this needs to factor in the different experience of every village which has a similar committee.
Okay, thanks. No, I was going to follow on this question. I was wondering, like, if there are teachers really qualified, and there are students who are not understanding what they're saying. And this is a problem, say, even in higher education. Teachers have been pointing out that students come to us, they're studying English literature, but they can't write a line. There's a huge gap between what is going on, and if you want to plug those gaps, say this year, for educationists like Hadar, how are they imagining the year? How should they go about it?
I think the fundamental answer to that would be, if you look at the rural communities and look at again the education system, it's very sad because we have worked in the rural area, especially in Tueng Sang and Mon. I can't speak for other districts, but Tueng Sang and Mon, it's, the children don't go to school. They go to school for just an hour. And these people, when they come to the towns for their higher education, they cannot even write a single answer. And they go on to the colleges. I don't know how they go on to the colleges, but they cannot even write a paragraph. And so that is a kind of system. And so when you go for higher education, they're going to use complex English vocabularies. How will they understand? When they have not even been taught fundamental things when they were young. So I think primary education is something that we Nagas need to focus. And if we do not focus on primary education, there's no solution. Because the formative years are the best years that a child learns how to read and write, how to know arithmetic. If that is not taught, I can go to the universities everywhere in the country or even abroad, but I will not be able to understand the complex nature of knowledge or education that comes along with it. So I think the basic focus for the government of Nagaland, we have so many primary schools, and they have the best teachers. In fact, the most qualified teachers get jobs in government, government schools. In fact, the private schools don't have qualified teachers like government schools. In fact, the private schools have quality of teachers are less than the government schools. So I think we really have to think through, and then if we do not, I think we're going to lose another generation of people, especially from the rural communities, competing. When I first went to Tueng Sang, I told my husband one thing. Why are we only applying for teachers' posts? And then also teachers in the primary school. That means you have to have a basic class 10 or 12 to get a teacher's job. Tueng Sang and Mon, we have very few people in the government. We just have 1, 2 doctors that we can name off. Why? Because there's something not correct in the education system. So I think change. Yeah.
I want to add to that.
Yeah, me too, but go ahead.
So primary education is very important, whether it's government or private. Yeah.
I'm not an apologist of the government, I'm here as a citizen. You see, I'm very happy that you brought out this particular point, because when it comes to not only Mon and Tueng Sang, let us take Longland and Kifri as well. Now today, the government has made it mandatory for every primary teacher applicant to have B.Ed. And B.Ed is a rigorous training course. However, there has been protest in the past that in certain areas, certain student unions have protested that we should not have that qualification to appoint primary teachers. So from the very beginning, we are encouraging teachers who do not have the necessary qualification, which will definitely impact the quality of students as well and the education they receive. Number one problem is that. Number two, once appointed, how do we ensure that teachers stay in their respective schools? Is it the problem of the government when a school teacher decides I will not go to that school? Is it my problem or your problem? Number three, having said that, because of the rationalization process, now certain schools, I need not repeat repeat this again and again. You know, what you are saying and what people are expecting has been addressed in that policy. And the attempt now is to amalgamate schools with less students, like Lakshati, for instance. It's a big village. Now, when you have less students and you have more teachers, then student-teacher ratio is, it is uneven. Therefore, in order to address that, schools have been amalgamated. So this process is going on. It's not complete in every district, but once it is complete, I think that problem will be addressed. The larger question of accountability of both the government and the teachers is, I think, if you look at the civil society response, when certain sections of civil society demands that there should be teachers who do not fulfill certain criteria, in my area, I am demanding mediocrity in that teaching profession itself. So I think there is a whole lot of things which is wrong in our value system, which we need to change. I think that is one area where I am very critical and vocal about. The other one I want to point out is that in private schools in places like Dimapur, Kohima, and even the urban centers of all the districts, you will find that when students come from the rural schools and join the private schools here in Dimapur, for instance, if it is, the other day my friend was telling me about his son who is studying in Dimapur in a very good Catholic school, and the teachers are saying that science is a very difficult subject. You should not study science. What they're actually saying is that you should take tuition from us after the class. So when the banking system of education exists, definitely attendance problems will arise. And if this is a problem, and if you know this is a problem, is it my fault or is it her fault, is it anybody's fault? So this is a collective responsibility. We need to address it collectively. So starting from where we can influence. For instance, if you do your part, you being part of the civil society, have a discussion with the civil society that we demand. The government, we do our part by saying that we will ensure the quality teachers, and then suppose we transfer one student, one teacher, or we suspend one teacher because he is not attending school but drawing salary. If the whole community does not block the road or come to the street for protest against that, then we are very happy. Then there will be progress in the state of Nagaland, because there is a collective participation, because we understand that that is killing the education system. Because of that understanding, we are coming together to address it, both the government and the civil society. But when the government takes action on the pressure from the civil society, and the civil society, instead of appreciating the government's action, because it's going to address one social need, goes to the streets. So I'm not saying that for every right that is denied, people should protest. But for every right that government does, I think there should be an appreciation and a reciprocity.
Right, I mean, sure, but it's also the government's duty, it's not the people's duty to come out on the streets to ask for anything at all. Or accountability is not the work of people, accountability is the work of the government. But I don't want to boil those issues down to those things, because then, because in my mind, I'm like, in the days of the Morung, did the teacher not show up? And in that sense, how did the village call for accountability that the teacher must go and teach them defense, teach them long jump, sports, and whatever that was involved in the Morung system? How did the Morung system work and work effectively where people were cultivating, etc., eating, all of those things were being taught, and yet somehow now we see, like, I don't know what happened in the days of yore, and I don't want to romanticize it. If you would like to say something, that's great. And after you make a response, we'll have.
It's me.
I think. Just can we have her? She wanted to say something, and then we'll have you something.
I agree with Momo, but I also want to say something. When the communitization bill was passed in 2000, something happened in Twangsang before the communitization bill happened. We took up 20 villages and worked with 20 government schools. And we said we are going to strengthen the government school rather than the private sector. And we started working with the villagers, and we told them, we said, the teachers will not come but we are going to do something. And then the community got together and we devised a mechanism to bring the teachers back to the villages. It was a very difficult task because none of the teachers wanted to come to the villages and teach in the village school. Now, all the teachers want to be transferred only to good places, and I can understand because as a father or a mother, you want your children to go to good schools and in, like, big towns. When the communitization bill was passed, R.S. Pandey was there, and we had already taken up the project in 20 villages. We said we will give one more additional teacher to the government school. Why should an NGO negotiate to give one teacher to a government school? That was a push and pull factor that we had to play. What we did was we said 20 government schools will have 20 teachers, volunteer teachers. We will make sure that our teacher is there Monday to Friday teaching the children. So if a private teacher is assigned to a government school to teach, then naturally the government teachers will come. So we did that project with Action Aid for nearly 10 years. We paid 20 teachers to a government school for more than 10 years. All these villages today, the teachers are there. One thing as a community we did was we participated because how will we wait for the government to review? They will not even come. They will never come. It's very difficult to get bureaucrats to come to XII. It's very difficult to get the bureaucrats to come to any villages, whether it's in Wokha district or Zinabo district or any district in Nagaland. You hardly see bureaucrats. So one thing that I would like to say is that I think we all have a responsibility together. As a community, we have a responsibility. As legislatures, we have a responsibility. As bureaucrats, as government mechanisms, we all have a responsibility together. As a church, we have a responsibility together. I think if we work together on these lines, I think things will happen, whether it's in health, whether it's in education, or whether it's in developmental activities or whatever. There is hope.
Thank you. We have a question here. If you can identify yourself.
All right, thank you for this time. My name is Sashi. Nagaland, we all know, we need lots of changes everywhere. Sometimes I, along with some of my friends, we think Marxism will be very good here in Nagaland. Lots of, we change everything and have a tyrant rule over this, and then have equally divide all the properties from the rich people, and then rule, and then everybody will be equal, something of that sort. Have a grand revolution, people's revolution. But hearing from our speaker, especially Morung, I feel like even our government seems to have the same kind of spirit, wanting to change, bring change, and working so hard with good spirit, and I like that, And I sometimes feel like if we Nagas, have to have change, then it has to come from top down rather than bottom up. And so I wonder whether there will be a possibility to have a revolution started from the top down. Like if that government of Nagaland say, okay, let's start a revolution from among us. The government say, okay, let's halt everything and let's start a revolution. We will check everything, all the corruption, and then we will start a new thing. We will start building the road. We will start building good hospital. We will start building businesses. We will put the corrupt people in the jail. We will see everything is doing well. We will have medical schools. If the revolution starts from the top and then see that all the facilities are doing well, then things might work well, who knows? And is there a possibility like that? That's what I was wondering. Instead of like just running around like cannonballs, like in the community, working like that. And is there a possibility to do that kind of revolution happening?
Is there a possibility, or is there an incentive to have something like that?
I mean, with due respect to your concerns, the moment we, if you call us people at the top, at the legislators, start a revolution, we'll be kicked out by our own people. And I have many instances to tell you that. But yeah, anyway, the concern is shared, but it's quite general, in the sense that you are encompassing all issues that we have in the state, and from aspiring or dreaming of a Marxist day to legislators starting a revolution. So let me begin by giving you a few examples. In the assembly, which is our battlefield, we have many discussions on many issues, and our concerns are expressed, but the important thing about assembly is that when we discuss and debate, it is recorded, and on the basis of certain rules of procedure in the assembly, certain actions are taken. If I say that I assure, if a minister says that I assure that I will do this, that assurance is legal. You can take me to court for that, for not fulfilling that assurance. For instance, in the last term, I had many interesting opportunities, to be the lone opposition in the ruling. And we were discussing about the bridges that failed. I said, Nero was failing when Rome was burning. We were assessing the issue of roads. We were discussing roads in London. And you rightly say that we are also interested in what is happening in the state. That's why we are there. We really want to bring about necessary change where financial security allows us to. For instance, 3 bridges fell in Dimapur. I asked the Roads and Bridges Minister at that time, what were you doing? Give us the name of the contractors, who is to build. Probably his son or daughter will be studying abroad. He will have whatever is necessary it takes to please the minister, perhaps. And I was very critical. This is a very critical tone I took. Personal in the sense that I was pointing out about his children who will be active in Facebook, like all of us, and Instagram. Showing where we have traveled, what we are wearing, what others need to wear, because I'm a trendsetter. Now, I'm just trying to expose the fact that it is related. From the top to your kitchen, everything is related. How do we address the challenges that you have just highlighted? It is collective. Now, I was reading a book last year by N. Ram, the venerated, I think, editor and owner of The Hindu. He wrote a very interesting book called Why Scams Are Here to Stay in India. First, he said, because of our 2000-year-old tradition, we can't do away with the caste system. Therefore, when a system is established, Indians find it hard to do away with that system. That is his first contention. Then, in the colonial system, under the colonial period, Indians were used to 200 years of subservience. And that subservience happened at the interest and the financial, economic and political interest of the British rulers. It is difficult to wash away that mindset and orientation. It took 200 years. Third, he said that after democracy was established, after Ambedkar drafted the constitution and it was enacted, the democratic institutions that are in place enable that there is no political funding for political parties. Only today we have open political funding. So the system was there from the very beginning to ensure that there is a disconnect between the interests of the rulers and the interests of the subject. And that was a perspective that he put out, which I found very interesting. There is a book by another sociologist called Shiv Kushwaha. He named it Theatres of Democracy. So in a democracy like India, it's a big democracy, it's a working democracy, it's a work in progress. All these persuasions, all these processes are taking place from one event to the other. To conclude, I'll give just one example. Democratic India and its constitution. Nagaland has the Nagaland Total Prohibition Act, which prohibits the sale of liquor and also bans liquor in Nagaland. In India also, when India was first formed, when India became independent, there was prohibition in almost all the states. But there was one Parsi guy in Bombay who filed a case in Supreme Court against prohibition. He used all arguments because he was a license holder at that point of time. And if you look at the entire debate in the Supreme Court at that point of time, this particular petition in fact brought out a lot of laws which are in place today. What I'm trying to say is that we are an evolving society. From 0 primary schools in 1963 to today we have 1,661 primary schools. Decadal growth in terms of our literacy rate. It is 80% increase. Today we have 79% literacy. And progress has been slow, but there has been progress. Now what is the role of all of us in this? So I would like to take a philosophical view of development in the state. Vis-a-vis the question that you have put. Yeah. With that I'll stop, I'll come back later.
Take the time.
Speak and then
my name is Kachopi and I'm from Teso College. So, since our speakers they have talked about the issues on the education system, so you have talked about the problem in the Tunsang and all those Israel Nagas. So, according to me, I feel like these problems are all the political problems because these Israel Nagas they've given lots of opportunity, but that opportunity is taken away by the other Nagas which are higher, like the political leaders. So I believe if we give them separate administration to progress themselves, it will be great. Basing on the problems which right now we are facing in Nagas, like most of us, we are not aware of the Constitution. The Constitution is meant for us to fight for our rights and to promote ourselves. So, like, I believe these seminars, if we give in every villages or if we try to promote or give seminar to those who are not aware of this. This again, and then if we implement policy in Nagaland, we know that we got lots of tribes, and then this has been going on from before, and I don't think since you guys since our experience talking about the changes, so do you think this tribalism issue can be changed? I mean, that's Naga's identity. If we use tribalism, we are losing our identity, Naga identity. So, what are the steps in all the spheres? Like, what are the steps to promote all these things?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think like he has a very good point about what are some of the inherent discriminations. No, go ahead. There are inherent discriminations operating. On top of that, there is a constitution that is not very sensitive to these inherent problematics, and it's not just tribalism, one can talk about patriarchy, several other things that don't equalize people in that sense. How would you like to respond to young people again?
Thank you so much. I think you asked one of the most valid questions about the Eastern Nagas. I think we will be slow with that, having different administrative units and having a separate state of our own, which the Eastern Nagas have been advocating. Now this has come out as a result of the biases in terms of job opportunities which are given to the Eastern Naga people. And the ENPO in the past and even presently, they have been negotiating with the government of India on that, and it is for them to decide what the government. So we don't want to go there. Secondly, you also brought up the issue about the Constitution of India, and when we talk about the Constitution of India, we talk about the inherent fundamental rights that is given to every Indian. Now, what I would say as a Naga, we are bounded so much by customary laws and practices. And I want to come back to that a little bit. I'm going to get away from the Indian Constitution and come back to the Naga customary law and practices. Because land is still tied by customary law. Okay? We talk about civil marriages, divorces are still tied by Naga customary law. We have very few cases which goes to the Indian court. You know, as young people, I've been thinking in my mind, and especially to young people, I just want young people to go back to the communities and learn what the Naga customary law is all about. Don't leave it to this, don't leave it to this older generation who actually know our laws and none of us know about it. Now there's so many circumstances of discrimination between genders, between male and female. Now, a lot of Naga young girls are coming up and saying, we need to inherit from my father's property. You know, my father died, we were only female, we were only daughters in the family, and then today we do not have any access to my father's property because my father's brothers have taken away that right. So you have this kind of discrimination which is gender bias. We have discrimination which is development, which is also bias, okay? A lot of developmental activities which is going on in the state is also biased towards men. So we have a lot of things that we need to know about our customs and laws and practices. So yes, the fundamental right is there. We have a right to development, we have right to education, we have right to health, we have so many rights, okay? But then sometimes the rights doesn't do much also. You get what I mean? When it comes back to the villagers, you know, the village has a total say. When it comes to the clan has a total say. How do we renegotiate ourselves and get back into our communities? I think this is something that we need to really think through. The Naga young people has to get into the Naga customary law, learn about it, and see where our rights lie. Because we are safeguarded by Article 371, we keep on talking about Article 371 as a very big thing. And it is a very big thing. You know, it has safeguarded our cultural rights, it has safeguarded our land rights, it has safeguarded so many of our rights. Nagas are tied to the land. Only in terms of Dimapur, maybe we can say this was mostly cadastral land, the land which belonged actually to the British government before they left this place. And so there's been a lot of, infrastructure bill which wanted to come out and then said that even the non-Nagas should settle on Nagas land. So when you talk about the rights, when you talk about constitutional rights, you have so many things in there. And I think, as you suggested, it's very important that children, young people are educated on the rights to know more, where they stand, what are the fundamental rights that they as a citizen have. But I also want to refocus ourselves on knowing about our customs. The Lotas, each village, I'm sure, has a different customs and laws and practices, which may differ from one another. So these are the things that if we as young people in 2019 can go forward and know more about our customary law and our rights. And then the third thing, what did you say? And tribalism, yes, I think we can also. I'm one of the most, I don't see tribes at all. And that is me as a person. I don't see Sema, I don't see Lota, I don't see Ao, I see every Naga as a Naga. And I think once we have that attitude in us, then I think it's also attitude. Attitude of, parenting also has a lot of, parenting gives a lot of biases. And Naga society, we are groomed with these biases. We are groomed with these biases, and then we grow up with these biases. We are against one another's village. When we did developmental programs between the Konyaks and the Chams, we had a war which was going on for a very long time. So it was very difficult to bring healthcare to the Konyak people because we had a fight which was based on the land. So there was we were literally cutting each other's head off. So again, it came back to the land. So all these biases developed because of what we have been taught. So I think home is a very important place to begin with. And I think if the society, it's very sad. Okay, I don't want to talk about political thing, but I'm going to make this one statement. Political biases are so strong in Nagaland. If I am a Lota or if I am a Sema minister, my PS will be a Sema. Yes or no? I don't know. I'm just joking. But I'm joking the fact, I think, because it would be rather from a political party, right? And we would not want to employ someone who is literally a very good, we don't look to them on work. Sorry?
Good at the work instead of being just from the community.
Yeah, good at the work rather than looking at he has to be a Sema or he has to be a Cham and from a particular village, from a particular clan. This kind of the biases that we see everywhere. So maybe I think from every level, if we can overcome these biases, the churches, one place we have these biases. Lotas will only go to Lota church, Semas will only go to Sema church, we should not baptize in another church. We have a kind of affinities and attachments to our tribal ethos, to our tribal norms, to our tribal, so many things. I'm sure, if we can overcome these biases, starting from the village, starting from the church, even in the political field, maybe in every, if we are head of department, we make sure that my secretary is also from my particular tribe. If I'm a minister, I want to have a particular secretary which is from my tribe. That are the kinds of biases which are going on in another society. And we are not looking at people with their capability, with their expertise, with their, whatever they have. If we can go beyond that, I think Nagas will cross the ism.
I fundamentally agree with her contention. However, one of the examples used may not really fit into that contention that you yourself made. For instance, when we look at a place and a profession like politics, in governance, I have a lot to say in terms of how tribalism, bias, decision making has impacted future of Nagaland, because I've seen it firsthand. On the other hand, in terms of who you want to work with you, depending on which constituency you come from, especially for a minister, the senior PS is usually an employee in the secretariat. So somebody from, usually in the past there was a trend of having one Malayali as your PS, senior PS. It still continues. We have a lot of affection for them, perhaps. Or they're more careful. That is one. It only also exhibits the fact that various ministers who are keeping senior PS from outside of the state are maybe doing that for many reasons, which I don't want to get into. The other thing is, for managing your own constituency, a lot of political assistants are appointed to look at the affairs of your constituency because you are not a superhuman. And you don't have the telepathic power to understand the minds of everybody. So, you need to gather information and data and help. That is just to make the working system smoother. What I would like to bring to the discussion is the earlier point I made. In terms of development disparity, 30% of Nagaland's population, or the region, centering in Kohima and Dimapur, are enjoying 70% of the privileges. So, the eastern side are not getting enough of what we are getting here. And it does not matter, even though the medical minister may be from Longland, it does not matter whether he is from, he belongs to the 20-odd MLAs from Drinsamon districts. It does not matter. It is all about how a system is put in place, where sometimes development is not reaching the people it's intended to reach. The point that I made earlier, and which I want to share with all of you, is that tribalism, when a minister thinks that the primary health center allocation which comes from Delhi to Nagaland, even though it was meant for maybe Mokuchung district, but because I'm from PEC and I'm the minister, I should take it to PEC. So these practices should stop. And I cannot be guilty of a colleague of mine who is doing that, because I'm not holding that portfolio. And in Nagaland, it's all leadership based. You are the minister, the winner takes it all. So we need to question our own leaders from our own constituencies, to be judicious, to follow the system, because the other people are deprived of. So you have a district, out of the 1,000 nodes or primary health centers. It's not evenly, because this is critical. Primary health, the other issue of nurses and doctors not staying in their place of posting is, again, adding to this problem of not sufficiently addressing the need of the people. So tribalism impacting development policy or service delivery planning policies is blatant. We need to address it. We need to redress it. So I think when the word called tribalism, anthropologist is used to privilege your own against the other, I think it's a wrong practice. So I would not condemn, your culture, your identity, and what you do with it. But definitely issues of how, violence against women are addressed by customary laws. This needs to be addressed. I've seen that our women are not so willing to go to the court or file an FIR in case of rape in Nagaland. And this happens with certain tribes. In my research, I found out that certain tribes would not allow you to go to the police station or the court. They would like to solve it in the customary court because that will be biased against the victim. So this has to change at our tribe level. And I think Putoli has brought out the very core of how it affects you personally. It affects each and every individual's life. And I think as long as this continues, change at the top will not have any impact. on the society itself. Social fabric will be devastated.
When revolution will be hard, that's hard.
I have a question.
Someone has
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not able enough. Sorry, the discussion was getting interesting, but I am taking the time machine back to education and health. So let's go there. So I just wanted to know as to like.
Can you tell us?
Pardon? Okay, I'm Dr. Resi. I'm a faculty from Patkai Christian College, and I have students from the Department of Mass Communication. There are like some 25 students. They are here. They are at the back. So my question is, going back to education and health. Okay, the state government, for some reason, of course, very genuine reason, they adopt zero tolerance in education and health, and it has been in this particular pointers where it's always been there in their election manifesto. But if we go to the ground reality and see the bigger picture, it's totally a different thing. They have adopted zero tolerance in education and health, but where is the zero tolerance when the education system is not good and the health system is not doing better? Okay, that is one point. Then coming back to the other point is, so you have said that the rate of literacy has increased, but my question is about the quality of education. And there are so many job openings for teachers to get into government job, to get into government schools. And then there is an issue of proxy teachers. So the government is coming up with job opening, but what will be the point of job opening if there is no basic amenities and infrastructure in the rural setup? For instance, health. For a teacher to perform really well, health is important, but there is no CHCs or PHCs that are performing well. So how do the government, in that case, vision the 2019 and the year forward? Of course, there is a greater political will is required, and along with that, a cognitive conditioning of the masses is also required. But I just wanted to know as to how the government saying that education and health being one of the most important priority sector, they are going to do it good. But somehow, despite many years, still the situation seems to stay the same. So are you considering looking into some of the basic, very basic requirement, that is the amenities? The teachers are in the rural setup. Why would they not prefer coming to the town? Because there is no basic infrastructures in the rural setup. So is the government visioning that as well in their visions and other documents that they are trying to make a policy out of it? Thank you.
I would like to extend the question on the education sector.
Is that in connection
Yes,
to
in
our
connection to that.
Can you please say who you are?
So I'm not going to because my question is this. I think it's all people are talking. Banking system of education, we have realized that there is a loophole in that system of education. Then what hinders the government of Nepal or us, the Nagas, to switch on to problem-posting system of education? Or why can we try the problem-posting system of education? That's one of my concerns.
Can you elaborate, give an example what you're specifically referring to? Did you say problem posting?
Yeah, our speaker has talked something
Can
about
someone give him the mic?
banking system of education, and we have discussed right. So my question is, can we not, or what hinders us to switch on to the problem posting system of education? We have two systems of education, right? Banking and problem posting. So I'm talking about the other ones.
What is problem posting? Can you elaborate the definitions that we are not following the definitions you are referring to of the term?
Banking system of banking system of education. We are talking about the kids listening, the students listening.
The other one.
And the problem posting system of education where the students have the mature things to play, or they have, given the space to articulate more, yes, more interaction, that kind of things. Or so to say, long package, some of the educational system out. Can we not borrow the system of education?
Problem solving. I mean, you can choose to respond to them because I know we are not from the education system and we're not really talking about, I mean, With regards to, if he's talking about pedagogy, you know, Raja, are we bringing the right pedagogy to the classrooms? Please respond to both.
First of all, like I just pointed out, I'm not the school education minister. I just, as the legislator representing my constituencies, and I have, because it's one of the largest constituency in Namben, I have 76 villages. And I have so many primary schools and middle schools and at least 7 government high schools. So there are so many problems in these schools, and not only relating to teacher, but student-teacher ratios and all that. And problems of costing. I did not understand what you meant by zero tolerance in health and education. I would have loved to hear more of what you meant by that. But going back to the following points that you made, I would agree that, you know, I don't know whether you are aware of the rationalization process that has taken place. There are a lot of problems with the education system in India, and the government has tried to address those problems from, you know, since I was in school. Because these problems have been inherited, and we have to review those. I'm not the school education minister, as I say, but from what I understand, number one, rationalization was to address the issue of more teachers and less students in one school. And there may be many reasons why there are less students in that school. They may have gone to the towns, the nearest towns, to get education, because everyone's after better education. Issue of teachers, let me give you, because I have had this experience. Many teachers want to be posted in a school where there are less teachers. Because if there are 27 teachers in a school and 30 students in that school, 27 teachers will rotate among themselves for the entire year. That I will go this month, you go this month. And they'll have a deal with the village education committee to release the salary. They'll give some token like, say, 5 kg or meat. Government wanted to address this by rationalizing the student-teacher ratio. That is one way of addressing it. And that has been done after studying it, and experts have come and addressed it accordingly, according to their findings. The reason why, you say that there are many CSCs, primary health centers not working. I don't know where you have done the review or statistics, where you got your statistics from. CSCs are not given to every village. It's in one subdivision, maybe one. Primary health centers are given to areas. The criteria is that this amount of population should be there, or if the population is not there in places like exterior places, geographical isolation is one factor. So the placement of primary health centers and sub-centers are accordingly done. In the present transfer and posting that was done of medical officers, senior medical officers, and junior doctors in all the subdivisions where CHCs and PHCs are there. Doctors were rotated, but there were many complaints from many doctors who want to stay in Kohima, Dimapur, and devote not time only to the hospital but to the private clinics that they run or enjoy. So there are other personal interests which are beyond the lookout of the government. So also, facilities, medical facilities not being there for a teacher not attending, primary school teacher, because primary school teachers usually in the state it's a policy that in Morung district, for a primary school teacher, it has to be an arm. Because education is not only important in the English language in the primary level. Sometimes they use their own local language. So when they are seeking for the post of primary teacher, it is very clearly told to them that they should be in their place of post. If they are after facility, they should not have applied for that job. How are the other villagers staying in that place? How is the pastor staying without facility? It's about commitment. Because you are actually getting a salary. So together, if we were to address this issue, today what the government is doing is to ensure that at least proxy teachers are taken action. There is the other issue of Hindi teachers protesting for not getting salary. This was an earlier error in the past. I would not get into that because it will be like pointing fingers. There was a moment when appointments were given without sanction posts. We are still suffering from that error in the past. So, in spite of the fact that there are many teachers who are equally committed, who get governor's award, sometimes president's medal also, there are also teachers who are errant in their service, and for which the power has been given to the village education committee. Now, if I was to suspend a teacher because I on hearsay that he is not attending school, file a complaint against him in the government, that will not legally stand. But if the village education committee says that this fellow is not attending, therefore I'm not giving salary for this month, no objection has not been given, therefore he's not getting salary, he's not attending, we write to the government that teacher will be suspended. That is the zero tolerance not of the government but of the people who deserve good teachers and teachers in this. So this is just some of the examples given my experience. I'm not the expert here, but I'm just trying to discuss with you.
Yeah, by way of discussion, just to broaden it out, I understand the questions are specific to education, health, and why is that commitment lacking? Education, we know, he's talked about pedagogy, he's almost hit the point home about why is there no ownership when we see that language, of course, in a Sami village, you will teach math and Sami because we do not understand English. Or why not? So how the language module is, how language is taught in schools, or how are subjects, different science subjects or math subjects, anything, how are they really taught? How are policies implemented? What I'm wondering is there no ownership among the people for these policies? We often talk about self-determination. I don't want to go to political self-determination, but what about the self-determination of people in deciding what they want to learn, what needs to be taught? I also wanted to respond.
Quickly, because you hit the right spot, and I should have continued this comment before I wrap it up. The thing is, it's also a commitment of each and every one of us. For instance, you belong to a certain village. You come from a certain village. In your village, there will be either a primary school, middle school, or government high school. Today, the thinking of the citizen is that all solutions must come from the top. Whereas when people have been empowered through that policy, if you are not going to your village and asking your village education committee after finding out that there is at least one or two teachers who are keeping proxy, and you do not start from your village, then you see accountability should start from the village, from you. If you, in your right value judgment, finds that there is a proxy teacher is missing, and you want to change the world, let us begin at our village. You file a complaint. I have not found any students, anybody, for that matter, even student union, writing a complaint against the teacher, because we are lenient with each other. Many instances are there. So I just wanted to go to that point that this kind of issue, if we all individually take up, it will be a revolutionary action.
In fact, sir, in my question only I gave the answer by saying that we need to question the cognitive conditioning about the community itself. So yeah, I agree to your last point that it should be a concerted effort from both the public and the government. That I agree.
I think we are spending a lot of time with these issues of education and health, but since it is very important, I really don't know what to say now. Maybe we can go to the next. I think we are just repeating.
Because we have about half an hour because we began a little late. I know somebody here wanted to have a question. So we'll take 3 questions now at a time so that we can provide it. You are here. Okay, there are 3 hands, so let's address them in the next round. Can you start?
Who, him?
I wanted to say.
Hi. Hi. My name is Arvind. I stay in Nangan Basti. Following the discussion, I'm still unable to imagine 2019 because it seems to be quite in the future and about things that we can do. But coming to your department, sir, your portfolio that you're holding, IT, right, sir? Yeah. So in that department, can we expect some infrastructural developments this year? Because a lot of these problems are because of lack of infrastructure, I believe. And also, since all of us are from, Dimapur, instead of really talking about what we can go back and do in the villages, can you also, discuss a little bit about what we can do here? Because to tell us to go to your village and, check who is coming and who is not coming, that is, it's just wasted, I believe, I think. So can we talk about 2019 and what we can do and, in your department, and also the government is quite, good in creating jobs, right? So in your, so in your department as well, in terms of employment, what infrastructures are you looking at for this year or in your term? Thank you.
I mean, quick intervention here. When they say village, mostly you can go and check up on your schools and just giving an example. Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible to go to your community school and see how that's doing.
Good afternoon. I'm Father Sabu, Principal of St. Christian College in Dimapur. I'm very happy to be here. When I see students and teachers from XII College and Archive, I could have got my students. It's not possible today. Very good. Madam Putali and Satyagon. Very good discussion going on. Thank you for organizing. We are getting enriched on education and health. I am already in Dimapur. I was in Bosco BEd College for 10 years. I am in St. Christian College now. With regard to the health, I am dreaming of Nagaland when we will be having medical colleges in all the districts of Nagaland. Medical colleges. And we have stakes of that time in India. And minimum 4 airports in Nagaland, international. And it is possible, and there will come with the development. With regard to the education, when I was in BEd College for nearly 10 years, government is doing so well. I am hearing that time onwards proxy teachers. But then there were also teachers, government is coming to do BEd in our college. They are very smart teachers, very good. Appointment is so good, so well done. That's what we are seeing. Government appointments are excellent. Whether it's a doctor, there is a doctor, or any other departments, they are doing very well. Only thing is what is the commitment from the people who are appointed. I have done research on Catholic school education, the teacher effectiveness in Nagaland. We have found that many of the Catholic schools, I am not boasting about that, doing very well. And take the example of 600 teachers. 600 teachers, only less than 100 are trained. Trained, I mean DLD or BEd or TTC, whatever it is. But results are excellent. So it's the kind of attitude and commitment. And we are, again I will say the word, I am hearing about proxy teachers. So many years, nothing is going on. In some other states, if it happens, if teachers are not found in the school, the parents will go and pull them out, ask them, where are you? That should happen here. By nature, we are so tolerant, so adjusting, so accommodating. It is a good quality, but not in all the areas should not be there. Where we have to be serious, I think we need to be. Only by communities things will change. If people appoint the non-committed, and that should come, all should be interested in it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one more and then we'll have
Hello, my name is Beto. This is not a question, but it's a suggestion kind of thing. And also, I think I just want to take the
privilege of asking this question to ourselves. So if we have to imagine 2019, the word imagine itself, we can see the picture. And then I think we have the right guest with us, Sarah being an IT, from the advisor to the IT. See, we want to change. Everyone is talking about the change, the perspective. And I think one of the best things what Sarah can do is like, everybody is talking about the changes. And I think if we change the picture, and being an IT advisor, I think what we can do, what you can make people know is like, with the taking advantage of the technology, be it education, be it health, and be it ensuring to the energy and renewable sector, so even sustainability of our people. I think if we can do something, bring the changes through technology, because I think whatever we discuss, health, whatever, because this is, I think now at this age, technology plays one of the most important roles. And that doesn't mean just we have to imitate the mainland people, or we have to imitate about the Western or the Eastern people. But then do bring changes through technology in our Naga context, be it education, be it health, or be it sustainable living. So one thing because I also get privileged to work with Ma'am Putoli, and I'm seeing their work. So many of us might be thinking like the education problem, the health problem, and all those things. But if you visit Penang, I was quite shocked to see that Penang is one of the best health sector, even in India. And many of us don't know. They have an ambulance. And then they, like, you know, all of doctors, no one will come. But in Penang, they have an ambulance, a gypsy ambulance. You call up the doctor, 24/7 they come. Now, those kind of facilities, like they are living in Dimapur, but then saying that this is a city, this is a smart city, but we don't get access. Whereas they don't get access to it. And then, like, we are still complaining. So why can't we take those kind of models and bring to our city and then bring changes? And education system, they are doing the same. I think they are reviving the Morung thing. And the Morung, if we want to bring that kind of education here in Dimapur, I think IT technology can help our people understand the tradition, the oral. I mean, this thing can be done through technology. So this is like this is a suggestion as well as, I mean, I think I get to see those things, but many of us, since we are misinformed. We talk about Instagram, we talk about Facebook, but we don't have those kind of information with us. That's why we always grumble. We try to like talk about big things, but then we have the best facilities so far in the instance, and then why can't we get access? Also, just to end up, if we talk about education, what is a political stunt? Communitization. Because you will appreciate the work of those things, and then why can't we work out on that? We got the work, people appreciate us, but then we are not applying that. So why can't we work on that? I don't think we need changes. We just need to be who we are, and I think that's enough. That's the suggestion. Thank you for the wonderful time.
Thanks. No, just give us 1 minute. I think series of issues raised, but what I want you all to highlight the one we have discussed privatization. Two things: sustainability. I think maybe you can give us a little insight into what it means to be sustainable in another context, what it takes to push it forward, and then of course we'll have one of us speak about the IT sector, what are the avenues available to collaborate on any sustainable practices, environment or be education.
I think when we talk about development and when we talk about sustainable development, we are looking at all the aspects, including health and education. And one thing, what we have been able to do on the ground is, again, coming back to IT and technology, I just want to link that. This is one area that has been very progressive. In Tuangsang, what we did with IT, especially was, we have one kit called Mother's Care Kit. We are linked to all the primary health centers in 100 villages. And what we do is, the doctor is linked to that app, and women who are pregnant are given 5-6 tests on the ground at the village level, and the doctor at the primary health center is able to diagnose and then give her the treatment, whatever necessary treatment she needs. So, I mean, there is a big link. If the government of Nagaland can take this initiative very seriously, because we have to link health with IT, information technology. Today, what is happening in the rural communities is people do have access to mobile phones, but they do not have access to doctors. I mean, there's no problem for the government of Nagaland. In fact, the government has a lot of resources and through different departments bringing them together. I think we can have a very comprehensive, sustainable kind of health system in place. This can be in any part of Nagaland. I don't think any PHCs are linked like we actually got an HCL grant, Hindustan Computers Limited. They gave us a grant of 5 crores to work in 100 villages. But we find it very difficult at times to get the government of Nagaland to pay our PHC staff. See, we have the dilemma going on. How do we implement health when the resources are not happening? So when we talk about sustainability, we are also talking of the government being able to, sustain at least their staff. We are also looking at the community being able to sustain whatever development initiatives they take by, being able to incorporate a lot of factors into it. Now, what we also did was, over the years, this is more than, since 1997, we started an economic group among the women. So when we started this economic sustainable groups, what we call the self-help groups, we went beyond the self-help groups. We have our own banking system, where the women actually manage their own resources. So the women have a circulation of more than 15 crores. So when you have money, you have health. When you have money, you also have education. So we are not saying that we devalue, but I think we have to integrate all these resources, we have to integrate all this technology, we have to integrate a lot of issues together, departments together, the government, the community, the technology, and I think it is possible. And we have the best person here. Through him, we are going to link every village. As the young people are saying, I will take this as a promise from him maybe, and then we can all work together towards developing Nagaland, imagining Nagaland IT linked on health, especially for women.
No. So I mean, after about now nearly 2 hours, somebody finally asked me about IT, so I'm very happy. And I'm getting to answer a question which is related to a department I've been holding for nearly about a year now. So I'll not get into what has been there, because it's just a directorate. It does not have district offices. We have what is called the SWAT network. We have what is called the community service centers, which works in urban centers. Like if you go to Thayaka village, there is a community service center, which enables you or any users to pay their utility bills, from light bills to telephone bills. So this was envisaged to be placed in every village. They looked at the blocks, and then within the blocks, certain cluster of villages, and they gave what is called a VSAT, so and a laptop, to one graduate or any class 12 pass who would be able to operate simple computer operations. Because it's we can learn by trial and error. You need not be accredited. Like you can learn coding without having to be accredited. So it's a program which succeeded in some villages, which failed in some villages, like all government programs. So today, that process after I took over is being reviewed. So we are reviewing villages where it has failed, and we are trying to assess why it has failed. It takes time. It takes time because it's a big state. In a way, not as big as other states, but for me, 11 districts negotiating with every villages, and people who have been appointed, some because of certain influences and all that, so they don't perform. So that is being assessed. The other most important thing is the e-governance academy, which NITI Aayog has approved. So we will be setting it up as soon as the sanction comes. So e-governance academy will take care of a lot of tech graduates, computer diploma holders, getting their skills developed, and for the right placement in Nagaland. Now, because of which we have signed an MOU with the government of Estonia. So this is because Estonia is the #1, and this happened because after they broke away from Russia, USSR. The Russian government tried to attack their digital systems. So they developed firewalls and all that, and repulsed the attack by Russia. And there, if you go to Estonia, in fact, the world over, people go there. It's like the mecca of digital governance. There, they don't need ID card or a driver license. They'll just take your fingerprint and they'll know whether you have paid your telephone bill or your, utility bills and all that. So it's not to that level that we are aspiring, but at least in terms of ensuring that governance is supported by technology. What will happen? Let me tell you. There are offices where I get frustrated because one clerk or one bureaucrat takes 2 months to clear one file. And billing assistants are the most interesting people in Nagaland. Unless they are happy or in a good mood, they will not pass the file. So for me, I believe that everybody now, because everyone's in social media, everyone joins one rally or the other, is supporting one cause or the other because they are conscious, their level of probity and ethics are high. We expect efficiency from young people like you who gets into the job in the secretariat or other directorates through competitive exams. We're very proud of them. But when in the working system, they fail to deliver efficiently, then we feel that something is wrong. So the government of Nagaland as 9 years ago perhaps, created a system where we know how to trace where our file is. So there was a register kept. So I know where my file is. I just have to look at the register. But today if I introduce e-governance to that, then if somebody is keeping or holding a file without any valid reason for 2 months, it's beyond me. I can't understand why he keeps it for 2 months. Then I will know that through this tracking system that we are developing, I will know that my file is there. I have to just go to the website. Website has to be up, of course, for which we are also bringing in a lot of solutions now because of what you call SPAN and Railtel coming to Nagaland. At least the Wi-Fi system in urban centers will be working, functional. Let us say functional. So once it is done and we are linked to all the DC headquarters, of course not in Longland because it's not been inaugurated for some issues, which you know. And wherever there is DC headquarters, we have put in place the Wi-Fi. Because in any district and every district for e-governance, you need to have interaction, video conferencing. For that, you need the facility. So those infrastructures are put in place. I'm looking forward to having technological support towards enhancing e-governance in the state. We have done a lot of exercise with various departments. For instance, with police department and medical department. Next, we are going to do with other departments where, of course, we are already doing that because we have to upload every department's website. NPEC was one success story. It's still work in progress. We want to make it as efficient as possible. Sometimes because of high number of applications, it breaks down. So we need to address all those issues. However, from before, if we compare it, we have gone a little way. So this year, with these programs coming, I'm sorry that Smart City is limited to Kohima because Kohima is the only city in Nagaland which has been chosen for Smart City. So money has been placed for making Kohima a free Wi-Fi city. Problem is, we declared it last year, and out of my enthusiasm, I thought we will launch it last year, but there were not enough players interested in that. And we had to float tenders, because it has to be legally done, due process has to be followed. We need competent people. I don't want to give it to somebody I know, I want somebody who has local experience with national times. Because we want it to be functional. It need not be just a government proclamation that we will do this and that. It has to work. So my target is in achieving that. Secondly, bringing the e-governance academy here. Third, when I first joined, took over this department, the BPO was not so functional. But we did some work. We ensured that the vendor is performing because we have certain mandates. Thankfully, to our credit, the Prime Minister interacted with our BPO employees in Kohima. That is the hallmark. Now, from unimaginably, because the HR manager hired people with political inclinations, and we are looking for people who are interested in working there, rather than putting in candidates from my constituency or his constituency, because BPO is in the market. It's not a government service. Of course, thank you.
So, I think
just one addition, just an addition, please.
Quick
Sir, no, it's related to IT sector, don't worry, sir. Sir, I just wanted to know, because Microsoft the tech giant, Microsoft, has spanned its focus to the Northeast region, and Sikkim has already tied up, done a MOU with the Microsoft. So, is the Nagaland government considering that? Because they are strengthening the e-governance in terms of giving trainings to the officers, developing apps, and then, of course, website portals, and also they have, the Sikkim government also have set up in the education course, they have some related to IT, they have introduced some courses. So, is the Nagaland government planning to have any MOU, sign any MOU with the Microsoft, or is it still?
We don't have an MOU with Microsoft as such. We have tie-ups with other agencies, but we have also tie-up with the American Center for running a sort of innovation hub.
Great. So the takeaway here is that for young people, e-governance, keep track of your government through websites, log on, see if NIGS is being implemented, see whether these are the tools that is for citizens like us to keep track, and clearly there are some jobs out there, so apply for some of those contracts. Great. So the second, this is the last round of questions. There's somebody here, and from the back I would really encourage if some people could have some questions from the back, because there is no opportunity there. So while she frames a question, this one and two more questions, and that will be the last of questions that we have.
We have discussed a lot of education, but one concern that I have, and which is very important for all of us, and also it involves the security of the state, is the border area and the villages that are situated in the border area. So as we are imagining 2019, how are the policies implemented for the villages, faults and border areas, especially under the district area belt? And when I say policy, is there different policies implemented? Because if we compare, especially in the district area belt, mostly the Sunni areas and the local areas. So if we compare the Sunni villages and the district area belt and the local villages, we see there are different administrative functions, because in the local area at Pankari and Ragan, the ADC is also the border magistrate, and the SDO is also the border magistrate, whereas in the Sunni area, the border magistrate and the administrative function is different. So the question is you, or is that a different policy from the IC2 system within a state? And also, in the area, for example, like the youth and the village, the government census their population, and the government recognized the village in 1987, but till date there has been no facility like CHC or PHC. So just wanted to know.
Where is that?
Generation village.
Any more questions? If not, that's fine. If you can approach what problem specific what she's speaking about,
Yeah.
also extreme securitization of all Nama areas, and all Nama areas are disturbed areas, borders where the largest ground profit, and also like there are problems constantly with jurisdiction and law because to make it simpler, do I go to a GB court to resolve something, or do I go to like the Indian court to resolve something? So if you can like also approach the issue of law and jurisprudence apart from the specific boundary problem that she is referring to.
Let me begin by saying that it's a correction. It's not a disturbed area of value. It's called a disputed area of value. It's a baby born with deformities from childbirth, and it's carrying on because there is no medical solution to that. Because when Nagaland state was born, borders were not clearly demarcated with Assam. In Manipur, it's just the Tupu Valley which is in contention because of issues there which I'm not getting into. This issue is in the court. It's sub judice. And any reposting, posting of police stations or even the administrative officers, it depends on the existing agreement that we have between government of Nagaland and Assam. Now, the difference between where border ministers are posted and where there are no border ministers, where ADCs take up the dual post of charge of border ministry, it happened because of the Merapani wall. Where now, because you need a lot of negotiation with the counterpart in Assam, the district administration needs to have somebody at the higher level who is recognized by the counterpart in Assam as holding that rank or post. Therefore, instead of border magistrate, they were designated as administrative officers like the ADC holding charge of border magistrate. As far as the court case is concerned, today there are two committees which have already been formed and which has submitted the report, but it's still in the court. It's still in the court, and I will not get into the details of it. But till it is settled in the court, and Nagaland government has hired the best lawyers, have made the representation. This case is going on for nearly 30 years now. This case was not filed by Nagaland government. Surprisingly, it was filed by the Assam government against the Nagaland government, although we had the right. So we are a respondent, and Nagaland government has been submitting oral submission. They have had lots of consultations, but it is sub judice. Matter is pending in the court, so we don't know. We don't have jurisdiction over it. It is up to them to decide. As far as primary health center and CHC are concerned, criteria does not meet for community health center. As for primary health center, in 2008 to 13, when I was not the MLA, it was sanctioned, but it was taken to another district by the minister, for which we are still fighting. And you can imagine if, as a legislator, I'm still fighting for it, it's an issue. It's, I noticed in Nagaland a lot of problems. For instance, there was a bridge in Governor's Camp, which was sanctioned under state plan road. Now, I, along with civil society, filed an RTA because we wanted to know how much money has been released. 70% of the amount was released. Work completed was 30%. A contractor is supposed to complete the work and take the full amount. But his argument was that since there is no money placed in the department, I am not finishing the bridge. Now, after public pressure, they are putting but he is continuing. As a legislator last term, I filed a vigilance case against the contractor. So the state of affairs in Nagaland is such that somebody has to use the mechanisms available to even get somebody to get their work done. So I mean, just one example out of the, but it's in the DAP network.
I think when we talk about international boundaries or state boundaries, these are very, very sensitive issues. And why we say it's very sensitive issues is actually when you look at the state of Nagaland, when the colonial state left in 1947, I tried, when I was doing my research, so much to find out whether Nagaland was ever left as a mandated trust territory. mandated trust territories are territories which are left by colonial states when they leave a country. So there are so many mandated trust territories in Myanmar. When the British left, these territories were left and they were like Kachin state, the Shan state, and all. They could become a nation state of their own. But because of the government, the Burmese government, which is ruled by the juntas, by the army for a long time, this was not possible. Now, the whole issue along the Pangsha border, the one like we have on this side, he has answered from Assam side because he is familiar with that, and I'm going to go to my Pangsha side. Now, international boundaries are drawn just like that. Sometimes they use the watershed, the water, as a demarcation that this side will belong to India and this side will belong to Myanmar. So that was what happened in the early 50s when this watershed was drawn. We just have one small stone that is situated there at Pangsha, and then the moment we cross, the time zone changes also. So international boundaries are very tricky matters. That's why the issue of the whole issue of this Naga, like the one that we are like negotiating with the government of India. We are talking about not only sovereignty or less than sovereignty within India and outside India, but this is a very complex matter. And I think it's many a times left best to people who are experts in law to leave it and then to decide with them. Sometimes then we as ordinary public just bringing up the matter and not really understanding it. So I think when we look at all this issue of boundaries or international boundaries or state boundaries, I think we should always involve the experts and not take the matter like within like the public. We can raise up this issue, but then there are so many things, complex issues which are involved in this, so we should be careful about it. When I talk about mandated trust territories, Kashmir had a very different status and Nagaland had a very different status. The Kashmir status was protected under Article 370, which the government wanted to do away with it for some time in the parliament, and there was a lot of issues which came out of that. Nagaland protected under Article 371. This complexity of international boundary is as such, you know, when I was researching and I couldn't find out, I was researching and researching and researching, and it says mandated trust territories are territories which are left so that they can become a nation state of their own. So was Nagaland left as a mandated trust territory? Because if we were left as a mandated trust territory, then we have a different legal argument. If we were not left as a mandated trust territory, then we have a different argument. So I think these are the things that we have to take into account. And these are done maybe by, I think, the experts, legal experts, who should really be discussing on these matters very seriously, that rather than us who may not have the legal background or the legal knowledge to negotiate the way we want to negotiate with the government.
So, ma'am, once again, no, this is last. No, because I did my PhD on interstate border, so it will not like kind of, my conscience will kind of scream at me if I don't give some of the insights about the respondents, about the border lenders who actually spoken to me. I have kind of
just one insight.